Rappin' with ReefBum is sponsored by Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine.
Hey, what's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rappin' with ReefBum. I'm your host, Keith Berkelhamer. So tonight, I welcome back Chris Meckley from ACI Aquaculture in Plant City, Florida. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, Keith? Doing great. Just enjoying the break. Second day.
Second day, I know. We were talking before the live stream. I feel a little guilty that I got you on the live stream when you're supposed to be off, but I guess talking corals is not really work, is it?
No, not really. I mean, when you asked me about it a couple of months ago, I knew when it was going to be, and I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely do it. I think we ended your show a couple years ago, or ended your year a couple of years ago with Thursday night live stream.
You were on pretty much a year ago this time.
2 years ago?
I think it was last. I think I had you on last year, like the Thursday before the holiday week. Yeah, I guess maybe it's kind of becoming a tradition, dude.
Hey, let's just keep it going. I'm okay with that.
So for those folks that don't know Chris, he and ACI is a coral wholesaler, and Chris runs a business with his wife Amanda and their staff. Before we get into the conversation, I want to thank the sponsors of the show, Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine. I really appreciate these companies supporting the live stream, and I also appreciate all you folks out there tuning in. And I see there's a bunch of you out there. Please don't forget to hit that like button. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. Well, why not, right? And as per usual, we encourage a lot of comments and questions. I've already seen a pH and Kalkwasser question in the chat. There's a lot of things going on in the chat there. We'll do our best to keep track of all this stuff and keep this thing moving along. But I don't know, dude. What's been going on with you besides you? So you're on break, right? So you're the last 2 weeks of the year you're off there at ACI.
Yeah, we started doing that. I think it was in 2010. I think in 2007, 8, and 9, we had major issues with couriers getting the corals when we'd ship out right before the holidays, getting them from point A to point B in a timely manner, and it ended up costing animals lives, and that's not why we do this. And we decided that we were going to start in 2010, shut the place down for 2 full weeks and take a break, give us a chance to actually assess our inventory and, assess some situations that need to be addressed and get things moving.
Hello.
Oh, here goes the cats again. It's been a kind of a thing I guess 12 years of doing the shutdown, and it's a well-deserved break. We need it because it's every week, it's almost 7-day-a-week job when you break it down, but it's really not a job when you look at it the way I look at it. But that 2 weeks gets me time dedicated strictly to the family, and I think that's super important, especially around the holiday season. So
hit the refresh button.
Yeah, we do this thing at the end. The last week we're open, we do it. We call it, I hope I don't offend somebody, we call it Hell Week, where we literally import a bunch of stuff and we just blow it all out at a huge discount so that the stores then can make a little extra money over the holidays. It's kind of our Christmas present to our stores for the support that they gave us over the years. It's kind of been just a tradition where we call it a customer appreciation sale at the end of the year. And I don't think I'll ever change that. It makes me feel good being able to kind of give the stuff away almost, per se.
No, that's very cool. I mean, you got to keep the local fish stores are just kind of like a vital part of the ecosystem here.
Extremely vital, and a lot of them are hurting because of a lot of obvious reasons. But if I can help supply them with good quality, healthy livestock, that does give them a boost and help them keep going. Because personally, I think it'd be better. I mean, if I still was a hobbyist, I would be buying from the local fish store if I could acquire the corals that I was looking for. And I'm not wanting to go with all the fancy names, as you know, we've had that discussion in the past. They have to mean something, and for me to have a name on it. But a lot of local stores, they have to deal with the internet, and I want to see the local fish stores continue, because if they don't, the industry is going to take a huge blow if we start seeing more and more brick and mortar stores fold, per se. And some of my best stores are some that have been around for 50
Wow.
years, 35 years, 20, 15 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it, you know, and they're hitting it hard. You know, these guys that have been around for 50 years have evolved, and it's been amazing to watch them through the process over the last 15 years. The one store here in Tampa, 15 years of doing business with them, and seeing how they've changed. And we've had ups and downs, you know, where we went a year or two without them purchasing because of course, you know, transshipping gets involved, and, you know, prices are so high sometimes that they don't really see the value in ACI. But then you go away for a year and then you come back and they say, damn, what was I doing? Oh, there's that whole year, you know, the corals are healthy. We're moving them. Not always better to buy by price. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Yeah, you know, I mean, you're talking about shutting down because one reason because of the shipping, you know, stuff. I mean, we've talked about this on this show that you know, the shipping industry, the freight industry these days is just it's really it's not a good situation. It's gotten very expensive to ship, and the reliability issues. You know, it's tough. So yeah, I mean, I was actually supposed to be shipping this week, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to ship this week. I'm going to just ship, you know, first week in January and play it safe.
Yeah, this week we shipped one order out on UPS, and that was because of we were so busy last week. I think Daniel had figured that we had over 160 boxes leave in a week. That was a pretty decent week for us, but amongst all the commotion in there, I mean, we were so just running around like chickens with our heads cut off, just getting things done from 8 o'clock in the morning until we left at, you know, 5, 6 o'clock at night, depending on when we got everything done. And I lost an order and didn't even realize it. And luckily we have all that, we keep track of it through our website. And at the end, they're like, what happened to this customer? And I'm like, you printed it, Chris. I'm like, oh, damn. And we had called them up and said we'd ship it out to them on Monday, and they were perfectly fine with it. And we honored our discount and everything. And it made it. I was really happy. But then we did have some stuff that was just some overnight ground packages, or some ground packages. And some of them still haven't made it. And they were supposed to be there on Wednesday. And that was just stuff in the state of Florida. So, yeah, I couldn't imagine what it would have been like if it was going ground up into, you know, your area or even out west. So the reason why we do what we do at the end of the year, just so we don't have to worry about harming the animals, you know, and having customers that have no product to sell. And, you know, usually they just buy big the week before, and which is good.
It's chaotic shipping, you know, a shipping day, right? I mean, you've got a deadline. You've got a serious deadline. You know, it's a dance you're playing. You're basically trying to start as late as you possibly can, right? And then you've got a deadline where you've got to get those boxes to UPS, or UPS is coming to you. I don't know exactly how you do it, but
they come to pick it up.
They come to pick it up. So it's nerve wracking, right, man? I mean, you're just like, you're under their gun, and it's you don't want to like have anybody upset the apple cart.
Exactly. We have a fairly green crew at the farm right now too, and this was everybody's first customer appreciation sale. And you know, Daniel and I, we hammered out. I mean, we just get it done. And you know, the new guy, it put a hurting on him. Like, it was the first time since he was working for me that I could seriously see that he was like hurting from all the work that he had to do. Because we normally start packing like, you know, on like Mondays, we start packing at like noon. Monday of the week of the sale, we had so many orders going. We were packing at like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And we didn't get done. You know, normally we're done packing by like 3 o'clock. That way we can do all of our labels and everything that is necessary, and just get all the boxes boxed or sealed shut with the heat packs, ice packs, whatever it is. And it was 4:30. We're finally done packing orders. The UPS man standing there at 4:45 because he's normally always there, the same dude. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, Anthony, please leave and just come back, because it's bothering me that you have to stand here and wait. Yeah, I'll just go to the truck and chill out for a little while. You come and let me know when you're done. You know, 5:45, 5:30, we're done packing up the boxes. And he's like, don't worry, everything's good. He's like, I'm going to be out till 9 o'clock tonight anyhow. So it worked out well.
I have like different issues, you know. So I'm in Vermont, and it's pretty rural around where I am. I'm like in the middle of nowhere. So so we have a couple of hubs, I guess, nearby. One is like 45 minutes away, and there's another like an hour away. So I usually go with the hub that's like 45 minutes. I sometimes I will travel 45 minutes to drop off boxes, and if I've got a lot of them, because I just want to make sure that there's less stress on the corals in terms of getting bounced around the truck and all that stuff. But anyway, so I've got the phone number of that depot. I've got the phone number of the UPS truck guy, and he's called me, and so we had this situation where we there's a plane that flies out of this city called Barry in Vermont to Manchester, New Hampshire, and for a few weeks this plane was not operating on time all the time, and some nights that plane wasn't operating at all. So
no.
and so I had a couple of instances where I had to, I always look at the tracking, and so the next, I always look at the tracking the next day to kind of see where the packages are, and I saw that it hadn't moved out of Vermont. I was like, what's going on with that? So I didn't have the phone number at that point in time for the depot, so I just got in in my car, drove 45 minutes, and there were the 5 boxes that I dropped off the night before, just sitting there, and I picked them up and
took them back home and redid it.
Put them back in the tank and tried it again. And then had the same situation, actually, with two of the same orders. I had to go, and this time the UPS driver called me and said, the plane's not running tonight. I was like, what? He's like, can you meet me at this so-and-so spot? I was like, that's awesome. So I met the guy.
Nice.
And so I picked up the orders again. But they finally got that situation worked out where they got a plane now that could go from Vermont to New Hampshire. But it's like, man. So I think one person's order I repacked 3 times.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, it's better to do that than to have to worry about an animal dying or a colony dying. That's it's what it's all about for me. I mean, we have our UPS drivers are very good. I remember the first time when I got a new driver, and he's carrying the boxes out and they're on their side, and I just went like this, and I'm like, oh my god, visually I cannot put my head around that when there's arrows facing
I've seen
up,
that too.
and you got them on your shoulder and they're facing the side of your head, and I just go, okay, I don't care what you guys do with it after, but my visual of seeing you carry my boxes out on their side, please don't ever do that again. Just please don't do that.
Yeah, somebody did that to me once, and I was like, you got to go right side up. But, I mean, God knows what happens to these boxes in transit. God knows what happens in terms of getting upside down, bounced around, and all that stuff. I don't know. I mean, so when I had all these issues in terms of, like, reliability of the airplane and not being sure that the stuff was going to make it there next day. That's kind of like when I upped my game and I was like talking to you. I was talking, I think, from Adam from Frag Garage. Who else? Ty, Farmer Ty. I was trying to I wanted to up my game, and so I started injecting oxygen into the bags and activated carbon. I just and just
makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, but knock on wood, since I started doing that, I haven't had one package that's been late.
I'll knock on some wood for you there, buddy, because we had some issues back about 4 months ago. We never really had these issues where they were just boxes were being just busted up royally to the point of, we go over the 15 years of shipping through UPS and FedEx. I've learned all the ins and outs and best ways to pack up everything, and I figured I did everything I possibly could to keep these boxes from leaking, even if they were just, tossed around like rag dolls. And here, like I said, a couple of months ago, we started having these problems where we were getting leaky boxes again. I'm going, what else are we going to do? I'm like, we have a bag on the outside of the styrofoam, a bag on the inside of the styrofoam with all the corals inside that bag sealed shut.
Yeah.
And
how does that happen?
How do you make them leak? So we started doing double liners on the inside of the box, and that, knock on some wood, has pretty much fixed that problem, because it was the same customer almost every week telling me, hey man, these guys are destroying the boxes. And then when we fixed that problem, we think with the extra bag, we were good to go. So we're still evolving our shipping, dude. I mean, I'll always evolve it just to make sure that the animals are going to travel safely.
That's all about them. And I don't mind paying more money to ship, because, obviously the oxygen setup cost me money. I got a bag sealer that cost me money. I'm shipping more water.
Pays for
I'm
itself.
shipping more water, right? But in the end, it's peace of mind, and that the odds are going to be much greater that stuff's going to get there alive, even if it's like
Exactly.
in transit for several days. Just looking at some of the comments here. All right, we'll get to a lot of the questions, I think, in the comments. But I wanted to start. So before the live stream, I mentioned to you that we've got like this big storm coming here in Vermont.
Yeah.
We've got they're talking like 80-mile-an-hour winds. This crazy front coming through, and the power company's already issued warnings about power outages and stuff like that. So I made sure that I got 2 generators. I've got a full house backup generator, so I made sure that they run on propane. So I got 200-gallon propane tanks. So I made sure that those were topped off. I looked at them today, so probably would have been shit out of luck if they were empty and try to call the propane company to come and fill them. But I guess at least I got peace of mind that I know they're filled up.
Right.
I tested I got a backup portable propane generator that I tested that made so it's a little nerve-wracking, but I should be okay. But you went under you had a situation this past fall, right, where you guys lost power for how many days?
Yeah. It was almost 3 full days with Hurricane Ian. The power went out, and luckily the storm wasn't bad when it came down to hitting us. It went completely east of us, which was great. Unfortunately, everybody knows what happened down at the people in Sanibel Island, and the path that it went was pretty bad. We got really lucky and only had power outage for 3 days. But we had three generators running nonstop the whole entire time. We were really Daniel and I really prepared for it this year. With the hurricane, we had everything lined up where it made it nice and easy. It was a little bit more difficult than what we thought it was going to be because of the legs on the breakers for the generators, and we had to even it out by unplugging some things from this leg and putting them on the next leg, and it ended up working out extremely well. We had power running throughout the entire time, and all of our systems really fared well, with the exception of the farm, our first farm, the Grow Out 1 is what we call it, which had over 190 acro colonies that we had grown from small frags. And it's disheartening and really upsetting that we did lose like 60 of them. They were all very large colonies, and we ended up losing a couple of the smaller ones, but they were right next to the big ones because they were blocking all the flow. And this one thing, lesson learned again, make sure we always like to just have the return pumps running. That's the only system that we have the return pumps running straight across the bottom of a 12-foot by 6-foot tank, so that we can get flow going across the bottom to keep the bottom from getting silty and settlement. And it works extremely well. But when you have a 12 by 6 tank and that return pump's only 6,500 gallons, and you got that going 6 feet wide under about 6 inches of water, and then when it comes back around and it has to go up 18 more inches of water for that same amount of water flow to go through, the water flow is just so weak that it doesn't travel through the colonies. It just traveled around them. And the interior of the colonies, we ended up losing them. It's where it started. We saved some tips of the majority of those. And then some I completely lost. And thankfully for you, you had some of those pieces, and my cherry pie and my pink spath. And I'm very grateful that you sent them back down to me. So now they're in grow out phase all over again, to maybe in 2 years have them available.
I sent you a nice care package, and I want to go through all those frags. But let's talk about what the Reefers Code is all about.
Reefers Code is something that my buddy Jake and I were trying to revive in the industry, and we talked about it for well over a year, probably 2 or 3 years we've been talking about it, but it got more detailed with what we talked about with the Reefers Code in the last year. And Jake and I always kind of went by the Reefers Code, where no money ever exchanged hands from Jake and I. The studio got corals, and the studio donated corals to me, and I was very fortunate that I was able to get back one of my favorite corals when I sent some to Jake. And actually Hurricane Irma, he got one fragment of it, and something happened right after we started doing the Kalk dosing 2 years ago, and I ended up losing my colony. And Jake sent it back to me, and then I had it available again on the market, 8 months later, because the PC gave me was pretty decent size. So the Reefer's Code, it is basically, you got friends in the industry, whether they're close or far away. There's no money going to exchange hands. You got a piece of a coral that you really like that you don't want to lose. And if you do lose it, what are you going to do? What can you do? You don't have that coral anymore. But if you got a good friend that has a reef tank and knows what he's doing, give him a small piece of it. Let him grow it out, and vice versa. Send frags back and forth. Not everything has to have a dollar on it. It's about the animals. And that was one of the things I loved about Jake, was the fact that it was never about money ever. It was always about the beauty of the animals, whether they were ugly to most and beautiful to Jake and I. It didn't matter. We shared pieces back and forth constantly like that. And if I lost it, Jake gave it back. If he lost his, he would have gotten all of his back too. And now you've got the same thing with me, Keith. You got the purple monster.
Let me show the purple monster frag that I sent Chris. So this was I'm showing the clip of the purple monster, nice little chunky purple monster frag, and there's going to be a little colony shot after this. So, and the colony shot is interesting because I showed the colony, and this is like a mini colony. I fragged it because I wanted to stimulate the growth on the thing. So you can see there's 3 cuts on this colony. I don't know if you're watching or not on YouTube. It's not that big. And this is like 4 weeks later after it healed up. So 4 weeks later, after I fragged it, it's completely healed up. And I think it is actually growing a little quicker than it had in the past. But yeah, when was the last time you had the Tyree Purple Monster, man?
Oh my gosh, I had the Purple Monster when I first started. When I first moved to Florida. It's been 20 years since I've had the Purple Monster. I got a piece of it from a guy over in Lakeland. I'll never forget that guy. His name was Rick, and he was a Reefer's Code type dude too. He just gave me a chunk of Purple Monster. I remember it very well, and he ended up getting out of the hobby, just a few years after I was, down here. But I had that coral, and it was the slowest growing coral on the planet. And all I used back then was 20K radiums and of all things, the VHO Super Actinics. Loved that lamp. Oh, I wish I could get those things back in my possession because they could really make a coral look good. I had that thing for a long time, and then honestly, I can't tell you what happened to it. I don't remember, but it's been almost 20 years since it's been in my possession. And when you told me you had it, I'm like, does he have the real deal? Does he have the real Purple Monster? Because I've seen imposters.
There's a lot of imposters out there.
The white polyps give it away. And when I got yours, of course, after it was in my system, I had to inspect it extremely well. And I'm like, yep, it's the real deal. And then I was telling Jake about it. That was
Jake wanted a piece of that, man. He was like, I was like, all right, you're on the list. Yeah.
I told him, I said, depending on who grows it faster, I said, you might get one from me before you get one from Keith. But I'm really going to do some experimenting with that coral, just to give you an idea of what I plan on doing. I use radiums over that coral now, as well as the coral cares, as well as some Reef Brite accents. And it's encrusted over that little piece of putty, and it's onto the frag plug now pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, it's growing pretty good. I'm like, but it's still, the other ones are growing a lot faster than that.
Surprise,
like,
surprise.
It's the Purple Monster. So I forget who I was talking to. He knows you. A guy in Jersey. And he remembers you had the radiums that were overdriven.
Yes, so I still use the 400 watt 20K irradiums, and I was using years ago when I used to be in Connecticut. I had 2 colonies of the Purple Monster that I acquired like a mini colony from somebody, and then I had a frag that grew really quickly for me. So I had 2 nice big size colonies that grew very well, and I had 400 watt 20K radiums, and I had magnetic ballast, right? So I was overdriving the bulbs with the magnetic ballast, and now fast forward to today, right? I've got the same bulbs over the Purple Monster, but I've got the electronic ballast. And you said something to me. I was like, we were talking one time, And I was like, man, I just can't figure out why, it grew like a weed for me, or not a weed, but it grew really quickly for me back years ago.
Sure.
And now the last several years, it's like growing so slow. And you're like, maybe it's the magnetic ballast overdriving the bulbs versus the electronic.
I think that has a lot to do with it. And, and it's funny that we're bringing up the magnetic ballast because I had to call and give Tulio a little bit of crap about I had two ballasts that came from him. I think I bought 35 ballasts from him like 6 months ago, and two of them didn't work out of the box, and I was just busting his balls a little bit. And he goes, "Don't worry." He's like, "We're not going to be selling electronic ballasts anymore." He's like, "I got a manufacturer making me magnetic ballasts all over again." He's like, "Because you've been talking metal halides so much, and actually we're selling more metal halides than we have in the last 5 years. Just in the last year or so, we've been selling a lot of metal halide ballasts." And I'm like, I think they're coming back because people are seeing what I've been talking about and other people have been talking about, that, metal halides really do. They're the best for aquapores. I don't care what anybody says. You can't convince me otherwise. Because I tried all the different types of LEDs, and I still get, the coral carriers really impressed me, but I still don't get the same as I do out of the metal halides. So what I'm going to do, and I mentioned to Tulio this when I was talking, I said, you're going to have magnetic ballast. Awesome, because I'm fixing to put up over the sump area that I have my acros in my large system. I'm fixing to put up 265K Iwasaki's. And I want to see what happens to Mr. Purple Monster under some Iwasaki 65Ks, because Greg Scheimer back in the day, that guy would grow a coral from a 1 inch, 2 inch frag to a foot staghorn colony like this big in 1 year with those Iwasaki 65s. And I think, it was Jake that I talked to right before he was on his way to Bali. He said, "You really going to do the 65s?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'm going to do them." He's like, "I can't wait to see what happens." And damn, now I'm not going to be able to tell him the results, Well, sucks, but, it's a shame one of our best friends and one of the biggest influencers in the industry is no longer with us. Good buddy, and I know he became a good friend of yours too.
I mean, listen, you guys were talking pretty much every day, right? I mean, you guys were
almost.
It's kind of. I mean, listen, we definitely became very good reef keeping buddies and all that stuff, and I knew Jake for couple of years, pretty much through the show, and he got into following me on YouTube and then reaching out to me, and we DM'd a lot together and stuff, and
we had conversations about you all the time, trying to figure out how to beef you up and make you better than what you already are.
Well, he was feeding me guests constant funneling of ideas for guests on the show. So he was a fan of the show and the channel, and it's so it's kind of hard to fathom in terms of not having that dude around anymore. It really is, but
there's a void, man. There really is a void. I mean, going into the farm, it's hard not to even just, hard not to go down the aisles of the corals, especially the farm, and look at, when you look at a toxic Jake Adams Acropora, Florida, and you don't even have to get up close to it, and you just say, all you do is look over in the tank, and you're like, damn, there's Jake's coral.
Right, he collected that coral.
It's like, no, he didn't collect the Acropora, Florida. That's been in captivity for... I get all the stories mixed up. I have them documented, and Amanda is doing, she did an amazing article on Jake's corals that's going to be published in Coral Magazine this, I guess, the February Coral Magazine issue that comes out. It's going to be in there. And she really did an amazing job. I didn't even get to see the original draft because they didn't, Matthew and her said, Chris can't see it. Chris can't see it. And then at the very end of the editing, when we were like 4 or 5 days before the cutoff was, she looked at it and she's like, something seems wrong here. And I'm like, okay, I thought you didn't want me to see it. So I read the whole entire article. And of course, my, faucet started running and teared up. I was happy for her for putting it out there. And just happy that, Jake's legacy and the legacy of some of his corals was being, put into the article, but we had to switch some things around. And luckily I got to read it beforehand because it would have been published completely wrong. And we just switched a couple things and good to go. So it's going to be fun to see that. But Amanda did, proud of her. She did a good job, a very good job. Just talking to me and talking to other people and putting it all together was she.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
Subscribe to Coral Magazine.
Yes, everybody. I just subscribed. It was long overdue. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but
it's print. It's print. But I got a bookshelf stuffed full of every Coral magazine since Amanda and I and Matthew have been since we've been subscribing to it. It's only been a couple of years, but I keep every single issue. And why not go back through them down the road? Where you can do it on the internet, but for me, I'd rather sit down, just checking out TV, maybe just listening to the TV and reading through a magazine. Print's not dead to me.
It's kind of refreshing to get off of the device, and actually thumb through something.
Very, very refreshing, for sure. I can't stand my phone. If I didn't have business, I wouldn't have a phone.
So all right, speaking of Jake again in the Purple Monster, he had actually gone on a little expedition. I think it was with Triton and Unique Corals, I believe. They went back to the
Tim Kelly.
Okay. And they went back to the Solomon Islands to try to find the original PM, right?
Yes, they did. And if I remember correctly, they found it. And they found it wasn't, of course, the original colony, but it was, the strain and the exact color morph, which is maybe it was the original colony. Who knows? I mean, the Solomon's a big, big place when you break it down for diving and stuff, but very shallow. I think from what I remember, could be high and dry at low tide, depending on how big the tides were at the time. So it's very shallow. And that's why I'm thinking, after I talked to Tim about it, he's like, how shallow it was. I'm like, maybe the 65Ks will get that thing really cooking and growing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. If I can get it to grow a little bit faster and it doesn't look as beautiful, and then I can just frag it and stick it underneath some radiums and get that deep purple coming back into it, that's going to make it a viable coral for us to get out to the world. And because if not, it's going to be expensive because the amount of time it takes to grow it is, of course, what determines the price.
And I hadn't fragged that thing for I think since I had it, and I can't recall exactly how long I've had that coral. It might be like 4 years or something like that. I mean, it was like dormant for a long time. Well, the story was that I put a frag of it in my 187 gallon display tank, and all it did was like encrust on the rock, right? And it had the single nub from the frag, but it just freaking encrusted. And of course, it was slow to encrust. And I had Oregon blue tort right next to it because that's my other favorite coral. And I had some other corals, and they started to like shade out the Purple Monster, So yeah, I had a lot of corals growing and a lot of incrustation going on. I was like, I got to try to save this PM because I'm going to lose it. It's getting shaded out, and I need to do something, or else I'm going to be shit out of luck. So I somehow got the rock out and chiseled it up, made a couple of frags, and put one of the larger ones on a tile, and that's how I started growing that out. And so yeah, it was a kind of like a rescue effort to try to get that thing out of there. And then so it's been on the tile for probably like a couple of years, and pretty much dormant until recently, the last year or so. It's been growing a lot better. And yeah, so I think I definitely see signs that it's growing faster after fragging it. I mean, that's something that I've found it in terms of in the past. If you frag a coral, then that could stimulate growth, correct?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. We had gotten in, is it Vivid's
confetti?
No, it was a rainbow millie. I don't think maybe it wasn't Vivid's, but whoever's it was. Anyway, we had it. I mean, and for like a year, it was a frag about this big. It's yellow. It's got green polyps. It's got a little bit of pink in it. It's absolutely stunning, and it literally did not grow more than like that big of a puddle. About the size of a 50-cent piece on a tile in over a year. And I got fragments that I'm putting on tiles that are like growing into little mini colonies by the time this thing even puddled across the tile. And I said to my guy that was working for me at the time, he's like, this thing is a turtle. He's like, it does not grow. And I'm like, you know what? That original frag was put on there. I'm like, break the whole thing off. I said, mount it down to and break it in half then, and mount those both down to another tile and see what happens. Well, that was like put the thing on steroids, because the original tile that was puddled, it covered back over where the original frag was and just started growing like mad. And then the original frag that did nothing, when we broke it in half and stuck it down on the tile, it puddled really quickly. And it was like they go into a defense mechanism, I guess, where they feel stressed and it causes a growth spurt or something. I don't know exactly what the reasoning for it is, but I guess it's, similar to a fish in the ocean, like a parrotfish coming over and taking a bite out of an acro colony. I'm sure they just go through defense mode, and they start healing and growing really fast and sending all their energy to that break, or that where it needs to heal, and that just stimulates growth. It's really wild, but we do that all the time when we're having a stagnant growth in an acro. Just break a piece off of it and watch it grow
I had
nuts.
a sunset millie, and you told me to jab it with a try to
Yes.
stimulate growth by jabbing it, because it was doing was encrusting.
I can't even figure out which one of the colonies was that I told Jake about that I took the knife or the screwdriver and just started stabbing the coral. I honestly, it's grown so much, and I figured out that I had another colony of it and didn't even realize it. And this one here just would not do anything but puddle, and stabbing it caused it to grow. And so which one of the two is the original one that I stabbed, I couldn't tell you. But it was like in 6 months' time, it was a completely different coral.
Here's probably should start incorporating some questions from the viewers here. Here's a question from Mike H. Rats Reef. Mounting new acro frags, laid down flat or standing straight up, which is better?
Depends. I mean, the more surface area on the tile or the plug, the faster you're going to get, a larger piece out of it, or you're going to get more. This is the thing that a lot of people are going to realize with acro frags. In most cases, when you frag an acro and stick it onto a plug, the original fragment doesn't usually grow at all, because the original stress is where the frag was originally broken. So their first defense is to go into puddle. And if they don't puddle and the fragment itself continues to grow upwards, and there's not enough of a base to hold that coral in place because of the water flow or whatever, it's just going to end up breaking off. So the coral itself builds a base first. So if you lay a fragment down on its side, that's just more surface area for that coral to grow a base faster. So once it grows that base out, in all likelihood, it's not even going to grow from that original frag that you lay on its side. It's just going to grow out on the puddle and then start shooting branches up as it would normally do if it was a settled larva, where that's all they do in the beginning. A settled larva will settle, then they'll multiply and outward, not upward. And it's always growing out, getting a base, and then the original settled polyp will start to grow up and start branching, but it's still growing faster outward to build that base so that it has enough of a footprint to hold it there for the wave action. A big fish swims by, all it takes is a little bit of a swish of a tail and a small piece that's not puddled enough for it to break off. And that's the amazing thing about nature, man. I mean, you see it happen right in front of your eyes in your own aquarium, and logically think about it. Why does this coral puddle and not shoot up at all? It's depending on the species of Acropora is going to determine on how fast you get puddling growing on the coral, and then how fast it shoots branches up. The thicker the coral, like Abertonites, heck, I've got branches that are as thick as my wrist growing. And if I was to take that coral and put it onto a plug, it would not shoot branches up off of that original frag at all. It would puddle out probably about a foot and a half before you start seeing anything pop up on it, because it's a very thick branching Acropora. Thinner stuff doesn't need nearly the base. So think about it when you look at your coral. Just say, okay, how thick are the branches when I got it? And okay, is it going to puddle really big, or is it going to stay small and then shoot branches up? And you can usually determine that by looking at the thickness of the branch, or even by the species. Tenuous, they get a puddle about that big, and you'll start seeing branches shoot up everywhere. Millie's the same way.
Yep. Quonk Reef Keeping, the stabbing trick worked great for me. I stabbed my Garf bonsai that was just encrusting, and it sprouted tons of axial branches.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad I could help you out with that one. It's it's kind of crazy how that just came about. I think Jake even told you that story. I think he was even on ReefBum when he talked about it, about me stabbing the
Yeah,
coral. Or we were
yeah, I think
together that
so.
time.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me laugh, but you know, it works. It
Yeah.
really
All
does.
right, folks. Break out the screwdriver to those slow-growing acros and start stabbing away.
If it's just puddling,
Yeah.
stab it a couple times.
But
It'll grow
I'm not
branches.
stabbing that purple monster. I'm telling you that, but dude.
I wouldn't either. This is the other thing I noticed with acros. You got to look at the structure of the coralites and the growth. That'll also determine on, you know, you can really determine that when it comes down to how much they're going to puddle. If you have like my favorite Acropora hirsanoi, it's a deep water acro, smooth skin, comes from a small area in Bali. It actually was just discovered across the Lombok Strait, which is just across from Bali, in really deep water as well. Very smooth skin. Coralites get like, I mean, the one I have it right now growing, the coralites are like this long. There's an axial polyp and there's
Wow.
nothing. It's just smooth. And that's the beauty of that coral. But that's that one that I was telling everybody a long time ago that, you know, it's on an 8x8 tile and it literally has been puddling for years. And I tried the stabbing trick on that one there. It works, but they grow about this big and then it stops and doesn't do anything. But certain coral smooth skins are going to need to put a decent base down in most cases before they start growing, or will not put a base down at all. And that's the very frustrating part about some of the smooth skins. So every species is different. It's not going to work with every coral, but it will definitely stimulate others.
So, all right, another coral that I sent to you was one that you had lost in the hurricane, the ACI pink spathulata. So I'm showing the picture of the frag, a video of the frag that I sent you.
What happened to it?
And so I'm following this clip of the frag itself is a clip of the colony in my peninsula tank, which I don't know how many months ago that was. It was, you know, you could definitely see the pink and some hints of green, right, because of the green polyps. Now, fast forward, this is still, we're looking at maybe 4 or 5 months ago. This is today. The freaking thing is like crazy green. The polyps are like out, like you would not believe.
Insane.
And
I love it.
That was not something that you would see when you had it as a colony, right? You did not see that green.
No, I did not. I mean, I saw the green, but I never saw polyp extension like that on the pink spath. I know that you didn't have polyp extension like that.
So
either,
we're gonna get into a discussion here about oxalic acid because you gave me you put that thought into my head, and I did the oxalic acid treatment. Maybe we should kind of like table that discussion in terms of the oxalic acid treatment. I don't know. We can talk about it now, I guess.
No, we can talk about that.
Bring it down. We're talking about corals right now, so we'll bring that about down the road. But so that was after I did the oxalic acid treatment, and the polyps just like went bananas.
You know, it's mind blowing to see how corals react in different systems and how they change in different systems. You know, and we had that pink spath on the farm for a long time because it was one of those corals that wasn't growing really well for us, and then it just started taking off, and it was just, you know, it grew, and it grew very well, but never saw the polyp extension like you have on yours at the moment. And even the fragment that you sent back to me doesn't have the polyp extension like yours does, but I can see that they're green. And I can still see the pink coralites in mine, but I'm looking at your picture and going, I still see the pink coralites in there, but what the heck did you do to the thing, Keith? Because it looks spectacular.
Somebody was like, I posted that on Instagram. I was like, that's not. Where's the pink? That's like a green millie.
You should go in there with a turkey baster and close it all up and then take another photo of it and say, well, here's why it's called the pink spath. It's a beautiful coral. And it's even more beautiful now that I've seen it look like it looks in your system. And I'm hoping, since I only have a fragment of it, I'm hoping as mine grows out that it does exactly what yours is doing and just gets, you know, that spectacular green polyps on it and the beautiful pink in the tips and the edges of all the coralites, and starts growing really well for me, because I know you've only had it for what, a year and a half?
Yeah, I picked it up from you not this past April, obviously, but the April before. So about a year and a half.
Yep.
Yeah. And
good growth out of it. It's looking good.
Dude, that's under LEDs, man. That's under LEDs.
What else could be the contributing factor to it?
pH is a little elevated.
Or stable, should we say?
It's stable.
It's at 8.29, 8.3. Goes up during the day.
Yeah.
That's the key. Stability in the pH really makes a world of difference.
Enough said.
Why
are spatulatas so hard to keep? What's up with spatulatas?
Spatulatas are very common on crystal clear outer reefs. They're also found on inshore reefs, but the ones that I've seen from inshore reefs are not as vibrant in color, per se. And now that I listened to Russell Kelly, the spatulatas are not spatulatas, they're milliporas. And they're basically a lot of corals that were reclassified that we thought were different species. And after they've done DNA testing on them, the spatulata that we find, what we know as spatulata, with its way it's growing, because it grows completely different than what we see from most millipora colonies. But because of where they grow on the, like majority of the spats we get come from the outer Swains Reef in Australia. And those waters out there are pristine, they're crystal clear. They have great upwellings from the the deep, because they're right on the edge, and they call it the hard line. And it makes a world of difference in the growth pattern of it because of the environment that it's in. So what makes them hard is the fact that we really can't duplicate their conditions. And if you can get one that is captive grown, then you're going to have a heck of a lot better success with it growing and doing extremely well right away than what you will from a wild, say, chop shop frag or a wild colony. It's going to take it some time for it to settle in. We have one called the Scarlet Spatulata. The thing is just fire engine red the whole way through it. And it's a nightmare for me. I mean, we launched it one time, and I haven't been able to launch it since, and that was over a year ago. And it has not really grown much since then. So I haven't quite figured spatulatas out yet. I thought I did, but I really haven't. And after seeing what you're doing, I'm going, damn. I'm like, I'm supposed to be the one growing these things so fast. But environments, are different. And with all the things that we've been through and changing with staff and this and that, I think that's the biggest contributing factor, with reason why some of the stuff that we had that was doing really well had to adjust to the way things were, but now they're getting back to where they used to be. And I'm hoping that we get them to start, growing like they were. But that's probably what the main thing is the fact that they come from very clean, clear, pristine waters with a lot of current. And duplicating that's very difficult.
Yeah, I've got a lot of flow in that tank. I've got, so it's a 225 gallon Peninsula tank. I've got 4 MP40s and 2 MP60s in that tank. So it's
good flow.
It's a bit of a washing machine in that tank. So do you think that in terms of the water clarity you're talking about, what about the use of ozone? Do you think that's something that you don't use ozone, right? But you have UV.
Yeah, and I use UV on my return pumps on my wild systems, and I actually did incorporate them into my farms, and they've been very beneficial for us. So they create a little bit of ozone. All UV sterilizers will create a small amount of ozone, so they will help to help your system for clarity. Not just because of the UV and killing bacteria and phytoplankton and all that other stuff. The ozone itself will help to keep your nutrients a little bit lower, but it's so minute, it's not even something to even consider as being a contributing factor in most cases. But the reason why we don't use UV or ozone is ozone is very reactive with one of the most important elements in our systems and in the ocean called bromine. Bromine is at 67 ppm, which is what it's supposed to be. And if you inject ozone into your system and you don't thoroughly carbonate, that effluent coming out of your ozone reactor, you will introduce into your system a byproduct from ozone going into seawater with bromine in it called bromide chloride. Bromide chloride can be tested with a pool chlorine test strip. It'll register as chlorine. That's how bad it can be. If you put ozone on your reef system, you better make sure you're running carbon and making sure that effluent is going through really heavy, thick bed of carbon. Because if you don't, you very well could nuke your entire system and you won't even know why. It's because of the bromine.
Ozone just scares me.
Oh, it's nasty stuff. I mean, when we used it on our fish systems, and we had, especially this time of year, like we're going to be down in the 30s, actually the 20s here. And Christmas morning is only supposed to be 28 degrees.
Wow, maybe you get some snow.
Hey, my son's hoping for it. But I remember 3 years ago, we had 3 or 4 years ago, we had a cold snap here in Florida where it was down to like 18 degrees here in Plant City. And the one morning we woke up and the ozone was so bad inside of our farm that I had to open up all the garage doors, and I didn't want to because it was so cold outside. I wanted to hold any heat we could hold into the building we in, because you couldn't walk out into where the farm was, because I was afraid people were going to burn their lungs because the ozone was smelled so bad. And that's what it does. It's an oxidizer. It'll literally fry the inside of your lungs and make it hard for you to exchange oxygen. So ozone is not something to mess around with. It's I don't recommend it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean,
little bit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I use UV on that tank. I got activated carbon. The water's pretty clear. Bert Minshew. What is Chris's hardest acro to keep besides spathulatas?
My nemesis, the Sahersonoi. The original colony that we're growing was on an 8x8 tile, and it had grown across the 4x4 tile, and then I stuck that dead center of 2 4x4s and let it grow over top of all of that. And I've had that coral for Vincent Chales from Bauer Aquarium sent that coral to me 9 years ago. And I started that coral out when my original farm system in the back was there, and I was running 65 Kawasaki's, and I couldn't keep that coral happy. I had to put it in the very far corner of the aquarium where it was still getting like 300 par.
Pretty good.
And there was a halide. Yeah, not too much for that coral. It doesn't like that much par because it does come from about 100 feet of water in most cases, between 90 and 100 feet of water. But I've been growing that exact same coral, and I've never in 9 years been able to sell a single fragment of it because I can't. When I get it big and get it ready to be to the point of fragging, something happens to it. And it's like, I call it my nemesis. One day that coral will be on the market. If it's the last coral I ever put up on the market,
it will be that. You'll have that figured out at some point down the road there. What else I want to okay. So what else did I send you? I sent you the Jackson's Rainbow Tenuous. Here's a video of a frag. This was like one of the, I think, original Rainbow Tenuous out there that was I think kind of a local hobbyist in the New York City area kind of brought attention to this. He acquired it, and this video is under 400 watt 20K radiums. It's got some serious like pink and red corallites and polyps on the thing, and this is like under like this is not like heavy blues, right? This is a
that's what I love about it.
I mean, this is like a true, genuine rainbow tenuous that shines kind of like under a full spectrum lighting situation.
Exactly. It's one of the, everybody would, I guess Andreas, my guy that takes care of my farm, he's like, Chris, which one's your favorite out of what Keith sent you? And I'm looking at it, I'm going, I love mine, my originals that he got from me. But I'm like, this tenuous right here, this Jackson's Rainbow is blowing my mind. He's like, that's what I've been saying. He's all excited about it, and he's been watching it puddle. And Chris, did you see the Jacksons lately? Yes, I look at it every single day. I mean, little does he know. I mean, even though I'm not out in the farm all day long, every day I go through every one of my systems and I check all my babies. I mean, if I didn't look at my corals for one day, something's wrong with me. Like I'm in a bad mood or something's got me distracted because that's my happy place every day, no matter what is going on, no matter how good of a mood I'm in. I got to go look at my babies. I got to look and see how my corals are doing. And what I don't like about doing that sometimes is sometimes I go to him and say, don't tell me when my coral's over here, this particular coral's looking better, because I can't look at it anymore. I've been seeing it go down, down, down. Make it happy. You know what to do. And when he gets it back to looking good a week later or whatnot, he's like, hey, Chris, you got to go check out the coral. And then, I'm fist bumping him and saying, keep up the great work. You love my corals like I love my corals. And that's exactly what I needed to hear at the farm, was somebody that, respected and loves the corals as much as I do, because I honestly get really depressed when when a coral that I love isn't happy. And I don't have the time to put and dedicate to them all the time. That's why he's there. And without him, I had to do it before. And in some cases, they would suffer more and more because of my workload. And it's so nice to have somebody that can do that for me now, because he saved a lot of corals. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah. No, I think in terms of what you're doing, man, you got to have somebody that you can really rely on that, can kind of take the load, lighten the load a little bit off of you.
That Hershey Porter went down too good.
Well, you got to get Amanda to kind of top you off there.
Yeah, honey, if you're listening, honey, can you go grab me?
She's in the
porter,
chat
please?
there, so she's watching.
Yeah, she's not in here because conflict with the talking. Back, she's over in another room. So, but yeah, no, it's it's good to have good people. And it's taken a while to get a team starting to be built back up, and I think the team's on the right path. And I do need one or two more that are going to be the right fits to round off the team, and then I can really focus on just haven't had a chance to do it. We have so many things on plan, and some of the things started happening at the end of the year here. And I can't wait to start bringing up some of that stuff, because all those worldwide customers have been wanting to buy corals from me, like from around the world is what I mean.
Right.
Look out. It might be coming sooner than later. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right. So I also sent you a few other corals, a Walt Disney and a Home Wrecker and a Sexy Corals Orange Passion. What's your favorite out of those three? I mean, those are all like rainbow tenuous, right?
They are. Gosh, out of those three, I really used to like the Home Wrecker more than any of those three.
Showing the Home Wrecker.
Yeah, but after having the Walt Disney grow out into a just spectacular colony that I lost over Ian, honestly, thank you, honey. It blows my mind how a fragment can be beautiful, and then when you get it into a colony, it can blow your mind even more. It's very few of those tenuous corals that are growing that people go crazy over that I actually like as a colony, because the fragment that most people are marketing is a tip. And that's where the beauty of most of those corals is in the tip,
right? The
growth tip of the coral. And the Walt Disney, whatever reason, when Mike put a name on that coral, he had an amazing piece that he put on the market. And I don't think that coral will ever grow old in the industry. It will always be something that people love and cherish because of the beauty of it as a full-blown colony. Now, the Home Wrecker, I have to say, between the Home Wrecker and the Orange Passion, I don't know, rock, paper, scissors me on that one, because they're still beautiful corals as colonies, but I don't think, in my personal opinion, they are as spectacular, because I've had both the Orange Passion and the Home Wrecker finally growing into colonies, and you heard about it and you came to my rescue, and I thank you so much for that, because I've got them back, and it's going to be again. I think I've had the Home Wrecker now I had it for 2 years, and it was getting ready to be launched. I got 2 more years.
Reefer's code, dude. Reefer's code.
So Jason, don't worry, you don't have to worry about it. commercially launching it for a long time. Exactly. You know, and that's you know, I've done some Reefers Code stuff with Jason Fox, and maybe it impressed me that he did that with me with my Firestorm Platy Gyre maze, and he sent me another maze back that he didn't even have a name for yet, which was really, really unique. And said, when you name it and launch it, let me know. I'll adopt it when I launch it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's the other thing. If somebody's got a coral that is theirs and it's I'm going to use the name when I sell to my clients. You know, it's going to have that person's name on it. Just like you sent me some stuff. No, wait. Did you send me everything you sent me already had names on it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. If you ever send me something that doesn't have a name that you had, that's like an original ReefBum, I'm going to call it the ReefBum whatever. You know, that's just the way we are here. I don't have to have all the credit. I want the credit to go where it's due, and that's also, in my opinion, part of the Reefers Code.
Yeah. No, for sure. What was I going to say? All right, so let's talk about some of your stuff that is getting you excited on the farm that you guys have been, raising. There's this I forgot what you call it, Chris. There's this green Monty that's got this incredible growth on it that was collected by Jake, right?
Yeah, Jake collected the Crystal Experiment in 2019. He was with Nick from Ultra Corals, as a matter of fact, on about it was kind of a joke when Jake collected it, because Nick was picking on him about, why'd you collect the green Monty? It's just a green Monty, and Jake's like, get back in and see what this thing looks like. And of course they did, and it was like a 2-meter wide colony on this balmy, and it was just that strain of Monopora. And Jake just broke a small piece of it off, and because it had a really cool growth pattern. And I remember getting it in, and I picked on Jake about it. I'm like, why did you pick a green Monty? It looks like a Monty cap. He's like, you'll see. He's like, it's aqua tuberculata. And I'm like, where's the spires? Where's the, this? He's like, I just broke the edge of one of the plates off. He's like, so it doesn't have, doesn't have the spires on it. And then I sent it over to him because I imported it for him. And then I sent it over to him, and he kept saying, dude, he's like, I can't wait to send you a piece of this. He's like, you should see it. The spires are growing off of it. It looks really, really awesome. And in June of 2021, I had sent him over a bunch of corals in May, and he's like, all right, I'm ready to send you a box before it gets too hot out. Let's do it now. So he sent me the Manila Spy, the Florida, the toxic.
I'm
Florida,
showing the Manila Spy frag that I got from you, which grows like a freaking weed.
It is a complete weed, but it's a beautiful coral, and it's got a really cool story. And I'm publishing that on my website.
Let's talk about
that right now.
We'll talk about the Manila Spy after the
Crystal Experiment. Well, the Crystal Experiment, when Jake sent it to me, I thought it was Monopora hirsuta, like the Elkhorn Monty that ORA put out in the market. Right. That was just a brown branching Monty, and I'm like, dude, this is a really nice hirsuta. He's like, it's not. It's the aqua tuberculata that you brought in for me that I'm sending you a piece back now. And of course, he sent the Manila Spy at the same time, and I thought it was hirsuta. And he's like, just wait until the Crystal Experiment, after you mount it, after it starts to settle into your system, wait until you watch it grow. And boy, was I ever amazed, because those branches, I don't know, it probably was like 2.5 inches across with like 4 or 5 branches growing on it. And you never would have known that it was going to turn into what it turned in today, because it just, all of a sudden, after about a month being at my place, every branch tip started to plate like a
really
cap.
Bizarre. It's
very
cool.
Bizarre. So I had this beautiful green, neon toxic green branching Monty with Monty cap tips to it, like just perfect round, half moon circles growing on each tip. And then as they grew out, where the shape grew out, a new spire would grow up, and then a new half moon shape would grow. So it started growing in these layers, and it started actually growing kind of like this. And you saw that original photo. I think you put it up here a second ago. I can't see it, but
yeah,
it is such an amazing coral, and it's not. I don't know. The growth pattern of it is what is the beauty of it for me. Of course, I like something you can see from across the room, and this is one you can definitely see from across the room, especially when they grow into a full-size colony. And then the habitat that it actually creates for invertebrates and animals, and fish, stuff like that, because of the growth pattern of it, is just.
You know what somebody should do? Just like put one rock in the tank and have that thing in there and just let it grow out. It'll be like one of those NSA aquascapes, right?
Yes.
It'll look so freaking cool.
It would be amazing. I mean, actually, you wouldn't even need to put a. I mean, if you're gonna do anything, get a piece of the what is it? The reef bones, or Julian Sprung sells it as Stax rock.
Right.
It's all
Yeah.
cut pieces.
Yeah.
Stick one right in the middle of a sand bed or bare bottom, whatever you want to do, and just put one frag of it on it. And a year and a half down the road, it'll probably be growing all the way around the side of the little nano tank and up the back, and you're just like, that's beautiful.
That's like a lost art these days in terms of like just having like a tank with just a handful of corals, big colonies in there. You just don't see that these days like you did back years ago in the reef keeping hobby in terms of, and I think Jake always talked about that too in terms of the beauty of a reef tank is just something that is mature with these big, large colonies versus just a whole, ton of frags in there.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah. Yep.
That's always something that is very nice to see when somebody posts a photo, of a mature aquarium, and it's just got these beautiful big colonies in it. There's only like 10, 12, 15 different corals in the entire aquarium. Other than you can see them trying to get more, and you see a frag over here and a frag over there, and might be too late for that frag to grow. This thing right up above, it's going to shade it out here in no time. But beautiful mature reefs are very, very few and far between anymore. You've got them.
Yeah. And it's tough, right? Because you really got to learn in terms of what corals are aggressive and what corals are not aggressive, and it's an art. You kind of like learn from your mistakes. I've had like the tub stellata montipora, in my tank, and that like took up a huge chunk of real estate.
Weed.
I had the Green Valley Slammer years ago, and that freaking thing grew out of the water, and it was like 2 foot tall and like a foot wide, and it was gorgeous, but I had to get rid of it because I had other corals that were gonna like die because the thing was being so aggressive. So,
still one of my favorite acros. Always will be.
Green Valley Slammer. Yeah.
Yep. I still have the original strain.
Do you?
Yeah. It's funny that coral.
I'd ask you for a piece, but dude, I don't have the real estate for the.
I'll send you a frag this big. It's funny on that story on that coral when Valley Green Slammer was named. I got an original piece of it 20 years ago, and I ended up giving it to a friend. And then when I got rid of that SPS tank, he still had it, and then I started getting back in the SPS again, and he was getting out of it. He sent it back to me, and then Reefer's Code. This is all Reefer's Code here. He gave it back to me, and then I didn't want it because of how fast it was growing. So I gave him a frag back when he got back into it, and then it's like 6 years ago, he gave it back to me again, and he got out completely. And he's like, "I'm done. I'm never buying another reef aquarium." He's like, "I'm done." And so I had run my piece out that I have now that we offer up for sale about every, I don't know. It's a hard one to farm because I don't want to farm too much of it because you have to have such a big colony to be able to get any kind of fragmentation off of it because it's so branchy. And so I just keep one colony and we put it on the market about every 6 months. That's about it. Keep it in check.
Yeah, trim it pretty good. So what's the deal, man, with the Manila Spy? What's the story behind that?
I'm not going to tell the whole story about the Manila Spy. I'll let people go to the website when we put the story up. It's
I didn't want to
it's a funny story. And people can laugh about it. Jake and I laughed about it all the time. It got into the country here legally. That's all I got to say. But it originated from Manila, Philippines. So anybody that wants to put the story together, it was not something that Jake tried to do. It was something that was done by other people. And when Jake was in Dubai, saw it and was like, "I need that coral." And then it ended up getting legally imported into the U.S. And Jake then had it, and he had a little fragment of it, and now he gave me a bunch of it. And he's like, just make sure you put a good value on it first, because the first time you sell it and market it, he's like, it's going to be the best money and value you're going to get out of it, because after that, everybody's going to have it, and it's going to be a weed. It's going to be like some of these.
Dude, it's like taking over one of my frag tanks.
I believe you. put it in some higher flow and it won't grow as thick or as fast.
There you
So
go.
that was one of the tricks that Jake did tell me
Good
about
tip.
it. And it's funny, he told me that, and it grew outward, not up. And then it had thicker branches along the base, which was really, really cool to see the different growth pattern because of
The
the
growth
flow.
patterns on that coral are like just really so cool. Really cool, but it's fragile, you know?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's like, if people don't know what it is, it's like a branching Monopora hirsuta and Monopora speciosa crossed. And it's very smooth in some areas, but also rigid and bumpy in other areas. But just this amazing bright ruby red coloration, and the white growth tips really make my that contrast is amazing on that coral.
Really
it's one
cool.
of my favorite corals.
Yeah, no,
for sure.
And again, it's like one of those eye-catching corals that you can see across from the room, which is so cool.
It is. If it grows big enough and the flow doesn't break it into pieces.
Yeah, right. I haven't had any. Go ahead.
What?
I was like, I didn't have any luck putting in one of my display tanks. I just kept breaking it, but it's got to be in a lower flow area.
Yeah, if you have a beautiful softy dominated aquarium, that's just
that would be nice.
Barely moving the water, the corals look happy. That would be a perfect SPS coral to throw in one of those tanks because it's not going to have that extra flow. An LPS tank with euphyllias in it and fimbriphyllias in it would be another great aquarium for somebody that wants SPS corals but doesn't want to have that turbulent wash machine aquarium. And well, I always say you have to have pristine parameters because that's what we do with all of our systems. That's the ocean is pretty much the same when it comes to those parameters wherever you go. It's just a matter of whether it's the type of reef that it's growing on. So yeah, it's a perfect tank for a perfect coral for an LPS tank that doesn't have the turbulent water that an SPS tank has.
Eric, Emerald Reef Supply, Manila Spy is self-fragging. Every day a piece gets broken off and put on a plug. Amazing, but dang, do I have a lot now. Started with one frag from Chris.
Hey, everything Jake told me about that coral has 100% come true. And, we don't really sell very many of them anymore because the customers of ours that have gotten them, most of them, unless they're just getting corals in and moving them out, if they keep a piece for the display tank, I'll never sell another fragment to them because
right. They got plenty.
It is what it is. I really don't care either which way. It's just the fact that it's, Jake Adams coral. That's my whole thing with that coral. It is something that I got from Jake, and Jake has a cool story behind it. And it was something that he saw in Dubai and had to have, and he made it happen to get it here in the U.S. And,
but it's a great coral to spread around the hobby because it's a branching Montipora, right? It's an easier coral to keep, and so folks that kind of like want to wet their feet a little bit in terms of getting into the
beginner SPS.
Yep, then that's a great coral,
and it's the perfect coral for the Reefer's Code.
It is. It is. So, all right. So, dude, Amanda sent me some pictures of some other acros that are pretty special in the farm. Should we talk about those and then talk about a couple of special LPS corals you guys are farming?
It sounds good. I'm going to bring up one, and well, actually, you go ahead with what photos she sent you first.
So I've got Sweet Dreams.
Love that coral.
What's Sweet Dreams all about?
The contrasting colors on that coral are just spectacular, and as a fragment, it just makes your head explode with the polyps, the reddish chartreuse color in the tips, and then it fades down to green, and then it gets very yellowish in the base. And the polyps, they're different. They can be like a white. They can be like an intense white or yellow or intense green.
There's a lot going on there.
It's a beautiful coral. And I actually, it's so funny about the story behind this coral. It was a wild Australian acropora, and I really liked it. And I said to the guys when they were making fragments for our chop shop acro frags that we sell inexpensive, I said, when you're done cutting this coral, put the frags in the section to heal for the chop shops, and I said, save the butt. Okay, if anybody wants to know what a butt of a coral is, when you cut all the tips off of a coral and you just got this ugly, gnarly looking piece of skeleton there that you go, why would anybody want to buy that? I want all of them because they're the perfect corals to get growing quickly. And that's how we start a lot of our aquaculture corals. So I ended up it was a piece about that big that was left over. And I think we got like 40 to 60 frags out of it, if I remember correctly. Wow. And after they healed, I sold them as my in my acro packs. And, if somebody wanted to buy 5 acro frags, they could buy them at the price we sold them for. And a local store got a 50 lot, and he got a couple of them in there, and he's like, well, this one looks special. He kept it and put it in his display tank. And we had ours getting ready to be fragged to launch it. And I'm going, what the heck am I going to name this thing? And he sends me a picture. He's like, dude, you need to name this thing, if you still have it, the Sweet Dreams. He's like, because I dream about this coral all the time. So we ended up fragging our colony down, and I put it out as the ACI Sweet Dreams. And when I put the story on the website, I mentioned Scott from Candy Corals, that he said he had dreams about this coral. He called it Sweet Dreams. So that's why we call it the Sweet Dreams, is because of a customer that got a chop shop and loved it so much that he kept it. And then we had ours growing out. And when he saw ours, after ours grew out, he's like, that's what mine's going to look like when it grows out. I'm like, yeah. He's like, wow. He's like, there's even more color in it. So it's a beautiful piece, and we've had it for probably 3 years now. It's very unique. What kind of acro is it? I'm not going to try to put a name on any acropora anymore unless it's obvious, because after Vincent Chalice and I had a conversation about Russell Kelly and what they found over in Australia with acropora, the genus acropora, and how everything's been twisted around and turned upside down. I can't even call an acropora echinata an acropora echinata anymore, because it's no longer acropora echinata, it's acropora awi. And I'm going, what? I can't call acropora spathulata anymore, because it's now called millipora. Hyacinthus was supposed to be, all over in central locations, but now it is everywhere they thought different species were. So until they organize that whole mess that's been created with modern science versus Charlie Veron's life's work and taxonomy. I love Charlie, though, because Charlie's rebuting all of this, and he has legitimate reasons why. And Russell's going, Charlie rebuted this one here. He's like, he's got a legitimate reason. He's like, I respect Charlie and all the work that he ever did. And I still have to, he makes me think even harder, even though we did do DNA testing on a lot of this stuff and found that the DNA is different. Right. But his points are valid as well. So I'm going acropora SP, unless I know it is acropora tenuis, acropora, even acropora young eye, which was the Valley Green Slimer. Yep. It's no longer young eye. Really? Wow. All right. There's just so many that have changed. I couldn't even begin to tell you, because I just started even going through it, and then the link that Vincent gave me expired. So now I've got to find it all over again, so I can continue researching on it and maybe learning a little bit more about what has changed. So anybody that wants to say they know what species they have on an acropora, say you're wrong. Because I know I'm wrong when I tell you what I think it is. So it's that's all great. I love the fact that they're doing this and learning more about what we actually have in our amazing reefs. But daggone it, I thought I knew my acros really well, and now I feel dumb. Well, we're all the great thing about this hobby is that you learn something new every day. And there's just so much to observe. Yeah, for sure. Cheers, buddy. All right, a couple more, and then we'll get into a couple of the LPS, and then we got to talk about oxalinic acid. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If we have the time, I think we'll be able to. We got the time. I can go all night, Keith. 5 hours, the one guy said. Well, if we go all night, then we're going to need to take a pee break and maybe another beer break, but I don't think we're going to be doing that. I don't think we will either.
All right, Shenanigan Acro.
Oh, shenanigans.
This looks like a Tyree pink lemonade in terms of the polyps, the pink polyps, and the purple or and the yellowish tips and coralites. No, or
I've never seen a pink lemonade look like that, because I had somebody else say the same thing to me. I'm like, but I want somebody to show me a colony of pink lemonade that is even remotely close to it. I don't think it's the same species.
Yeah, you're right. The growth pattern is different. I think it's
Yep.
The pink lemonade is more of a denser growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
This thing is one of the brightest acros. I mean, you don't really consider red a color that can be bright. I mean, if you think about it, it's not really, unless it's a highlighter red. This thing's polyps are so bright red, and the yellow is so highlighter yellow in person. I remember when I was putting photos up of my ORA pearlberries that I was so happy were grown out. I'm showing off the pearlberries.
Is that a pearlberry in front of it?
It is.
Yeah, looks like
the
it.
Shenanigans was behind it, and I'm going, check out these beautiful lineage pearlberries, and everybody's going, what's that in the background? And I'm going, I know that one in the background is beautiful, but it's not even close to being ready to offer up for sale. And the Shenanigans, I forget why we called it the Shenanigans, but Amanda coined that name on that coral, and we were just drooling over it for the photos that she was editing the one time, and she's like, looks like Shenanigans to me or something like that. And I'm like, that's the name for it. So luckily we imported the photo and we named that file Shenanigans, because I would have never remembered that. And I was going through files a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, the Shenanigans. Daniel just fragged that one up. I couldn't remember the name of it, and Dan put it in as red and yellow acro. I'm like, now I got to have him go change it so we know that the Shenanigans is coming up. So that's going to be released for the first time in January. Actually, we'll release it the first when we come back from break. We're going to release the Shenanigans. The Sweet Dreams was released once. We'll release that one again. And then there's another one you're going to mention here that I can't wait to release for the second time.
Yeah, I want to show that one. Mark Vanderwall, Pink Lemonade and Shades of Fall were tablers for me. Interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Very true. This one here is a very bushy acropora. Very, very beautiful. Very beautiful. Different growth pattern altogether than what Pink Lemonade was.
Yeah, you're right. All right. So we talking about
berry.
Chameleon or berry?
Oh, chameleon. I'll talk about the chameleon.
All right, chameleon. This thing looks, wow.
It's unbelievable. Like that.
Yeah, wow.
I call it the chameleon.
Does it change its color?
All the time. I swear to you, that photo was taken, I think, August, maybe July. If I brought you to the farm right now and I took that photo and showed it to you on my phone, and you looked at chameleon right now, it looks completely different. It's still absolutely stunning, but it does not look like you can tell it's the same coral by the growth pattern, but the color, it's almost like it shifts all the time. Like this branch will shift colors around, and then this over here will shift colors around. So I can't even justify launching it until I see what it really is going to do. And maybe it will stay and be like a chameleon for everybody that has it, depending on their flow, their light, and different, water parameters. And now that the systems are tuned in with our minor and traces, it's turned into what it turned into.
All right. Mark Vanderwall, holy moly, the chameleon! ! Mike H. Ratsreef, sick. Corey Page, insane! ! Eric, Emerald Reef Supply, take my money now! Smiley face. Corey Page, smile grin there.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. I mean, it's nice to get good feedback. I mean, if I took a picture today, you'd all go, that's not the same coral. But if you looked at it close, you'd be like, that is the same coral. It's amazing.
Mike H. Ratsreef, take my firstborn. That's I believe what you were saying there, Mike. Yeah, there we go. First. Okay. Yeah, dude. Whoa.
I think my next step with that coral is, because it's not very big. I mean, it might look big in that video or that photo.
No.
but it is only on a 2.5-inch tile. So it's probably about 2.5 inches tall by maybe 3 inches wide at the widest point.
You gotta frag it, man, so it'll grow quicker.
That's my next step. I think what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to frag it, and then I'm going to make 3 or 4 more tiles of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to put it in different lighting scenarios.
You need you need some backups of that thing.
Oh yeah, I'll send a piece. You know what? Maybe I'll break a frag off for your care package coming in 2 or 3 weeks. See what you can do with it. See if the chameleon lives up to its name. But yeah, I definitely want to put some under 65 Kawasaki's. I want to see what happens to it there. Does it turn turd brown and grow like a weed, or does it actually hold some color into it? It's going to be interesting. That's what I love about what we do is you take a coral that's been growing and doing well, and then you can move it all these different areas so you have it in different systems. And sometimes you have no reaction. Other times you have completely different reactions by the coral itself, and it changes. And that's the interesting thing about reefing is your home wrecker might look this way in your tank, but in my tank, it looks completely different. And I see it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a home wrecker in my under my halides, and I've got a home wrecker. Well, I had a home wrecker in my LED tank, and it started Rtn and Stn, and that's what we'll talk about, the alkaline acid treatment. But I was able to save it. But it looked a lot different, probably better under my LEDs versus the halides, at least to my eyes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Very berry. Whoa, what is that, dude?
It's stupid. It's a table acro, and ooh. I have some California customers that have that are big maintenance companies, and the one guy is begging me almost monthly to just break him a fresh frag off of it and send it, because he's got customers that absolutely love the coral and they want it for their. This guy takes care of tanks 500 gallons and larger, and his biggest tank that he takes care of is 5,000 gallons. And the owner of that tank went on my website and was able to see the very berry photo, and he's like, I need that coral. This was 5 months ago, and I sent my customer a fragment of it, and of course it went right into that gentleman's tank, and he was very, very thankful and grateful that I was breaking one off for him. But it's been I think I released it last year, this year, but it was in the beginning of the year, and now we're going to release it again the beginning of the year. That was one of those corals that really browned out during the it's a big colony. I'm surprised I didn't lose it because
during
of the
power
water
outage.
Yeah, it did really well. It just turned totally brown, and I made Daniel frag it because I said, dude, frag it, because I know for a fact that from the time you frag it to the healing process till we can sell it, it'll get all of its color back into it. And of course, I was right. I went back and looked at it right before break, and I'm like, we're launching the very berry the beginning of the year. Can't wait to do it. And it's been fragged for 5 weeks, and I had some of the best puddling I had ever seen off of an Acropora, that particular one. I guess it was from the stress it was under during Ian, and then the fact that we fragged it, which stressed it out again. And then it went into total steroid mode. Like you were shooting steroids in the tank every day, and it's just like puddled across the plug almost completely in 5 weeks. I'm like, how in the hell did we do that? But hey, I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Nah, I don't think so, dude. You're an amateur.
I love haters.
You're an amateur.
I love haters.
Blue Reef. Oh, where are the thumbs up? All right, yeah, everybody hit that thumbs up. We got 77 likes. So let's get to 100. All right, Let's get to 100 likes. We got a lot of people watching here, so we should be able to get to 100 likes. All right, dude, let's switch gears. LPS, yes. You got a very special thing going on here called the Prince of Darkness, and I'm showing it right now, the video.
You know, it's so weird, but as soon as you started talking about LPS, and I knew the first coral that you were going to mention was the Prince of Darkness, I got goosebumps all over my body. It is absolutely my favorite of all time euphyllias. I don't care if people don't like it, because I like the odd and unusual, and the absence of all color, to me, in with all that amazing color that euphyllias come in, just sets it off even more to me, because it's just not something you see every day. And it is named the Prince of Darkness because under all blues, this bad boy is basically black.
That's and
if you look closely at it when in the flow, under all blues, it does have like para and cora have this. Most of them have a really cool pattern inside below the polyps, and they have like this kind of star pattern in them that is like green most of the time, or in some cases it's yellow with the color of the base. This has like a almost a turquoise blue star in the middle of it when it's really fully extended, and it is just super cool. And under whites, it kind of has this purplish sheen to it. I think it looks more gray silver. But if you put a good blend of blue LEDs, and then I use my radiums, which I consider the radiums white compared to what a royal blue LED is.
Full spectrum.
Really,
it's full spectrum, right?
exactly. It looks spectacular under a true full spectrum lamp. It's got that like purplish look to it. And you can see the blue inside as well when the flow is right, and you can see in between the tentacles of the polyps.
Like Gay Charat's Reef, Prince of Darkness is sweet. Brian at Saltwater Aquarium, it's absolutely amazing in person.
What's up, Brian?
Reese, Richard, laugh out loud. I remember you going off on that coral last week, question mark, when we spoke over the phone. Reef the Sea Forever, wow. Mark Vanderwall, the Prince of Darkness is awesome. Rob B's Reef, not a fan. You know, I guess it's to each his own, right?
Hey, I've had more people like it than not like it, so I think it's a win. Even if it's not, I'll still cherish it for as long as I can have it, because it's just a unique.
It's unique, right? That's the cool thing. It's different, right? You don't see that.
You don't, and that's, I'm going to go back to Jake here. That was the stuff that Jake and I enjoyed, and Mark is listening to this, and he can attest to this as well. Some of the corals that Jake liked, there's not a single person in this hobby that would want a piece of it for their aquarium, except for people like me, people like Mark, people that loved corals just for the coral shape, the growth pattern. It doesn't have to have phosphorescent colors for me to absolutely love a coral. Even though, don't get me wrong, I love the bright, beautiful phosphorescent corals, but it's about the coral itself. And having the Prince of Darkness just kind of pop up from nowhere. 15 polyps grown out. We fragged up 3 tiles that were all individual polyps. So there was 3 polyps that we ended up fragging up into 57 polyps after 9 months of growth. So we did a soft release for our sale, and we're going to put them on the market now, hopefully continuously, and not go off the market, because I think we've got to frag down. There's probably good 300 plus more polyps there to break down that all grew from the original 15.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. And how long did it take you to grow that stuff out to the point where you had frags for sale?
We had it originally. We put it on the farm. It was about August, and it was just a single polyp on each of those tiles. And then in February, we had some issues with our euphyllias, if I remember correctly. And we can get into that discussion a bit more when we talk about the OA. But I put the princes on the farm at 15 polyps in February. And here we are now, December, and we fragged, well, I estimate we have roughly 300 polyps that had grown from those original 15. I could be give or take some. I mean, because every one of them grew a little bit differently, so it could be a little bit more than the 300 available that are going to be cut down, or it could be a little bit less than the 300. I just have to sit in there and break them down themselves. And while we're at it, if somebody's telling you they aquacultured a Fimbrophilia para and cora, and they don't have tissue down the entire stem or skeleton area of that fragment that you're getting, call bullshit on them, because every single one of these, Daniel fragged these miniature colonies up, and I'm going, dude, you're normally like really fast at doing this. I'm like, what the hell is taking you so long cutting up these doggone euphyllias? He said, euphilia. Why are you taking so long to get them? He's like, these snot balls, I can't hold them in my daggone hands because there's so much tissue going down the stem that it was so slimy he couldn't keep them in his fingertips to mount them onto the glue. And the other cool thing about, I had a customer call me when he got his Prince of Darkness last week. He's like, how do you have tissue encrusting over top of the glue? I'm like, it's an aquacultured euphilia. He's like, I've gotten aquaculture euphyllias before, and they didn't have tissue encrusting over the glue. I'm like, well, then it was probably just a chop shop that they called aquaculture, and you got duped. You got duped, bottom line. All of our aquaculture fimbriphyllias and euphyllias will always have tissue. If it's not down to the glue, it's either over the glue or just barely above the glue because of the way we had to cut the fragment. But it's wild.
So Eric, Emerald Reef Supply, I like this guy. He's funny guy. I don't know who he is, but I got one.
He's a good guy.
I got one of the soft. He's talking about the Prince of Darkness. I got one of the soft releases. Another sales failure went into my personal tank with a smile. Drew Young, this is a very important thing. We're going to talk about at the end, but please have Chris or Amanda plug how to get ACI corals. How do how do successful hobbyists get them? How do they find your stuff, dude?
Talk to your local fish store. We strictly sell wholesale to local brick and mortar fish stores or to stores and companies that have legitimate active online websites, and it has to be their sole source of income. Like they're dedicated to it. I don't want we don't sell to somebody that's just a hobbyist that has a frag tank off to the side that sells frags on the side. That's not a business for us. We do everything we can to protect our brick and mortar stores and companies that are dedicating their livelihood to, their sole source of income is their business. And it's funny because people say, well, how would you even know that? Well, do they slip through the cracks? Yes. And when we find out about it, it's always from another storefront or from another company that's like, dude, they're not legit. They buy coral from me and they don't have a business. And I hate being duped, but it happens on occasions. And then, sorry, but if somebody lies to me about being their sole source of income in their business, then they go to log in one day and it's no longer active. I delete their account without even talking to them because I felt like I was disrespected.
Yeah.
So I respect all of my businesses that we do business with that are legitimate businesses, not just a, guy with a full-time job and a frag tank. That's not who we sell to.
Yeah.
So you have to have a legitimate company to buy from us.
Yeah.
Do I have a soft spot for people that want to get going and they want a business to be their sole source? Yes, I do. But you better be close to that point because if you get caught, it's
game over.
You never do business. Game over.
Yeah.
I am the one all be all decide all on who I do business with, and I'm very, very generous sometimes, and it bites me in the rear end. And I always make it right because I can't afford to affect my brick and mortar stores and legitimate companies that do business with us. I can't jeopardize that relationship. And that's one of my biggest things that I'm very strict with and making sure that I take care of the people that take care of me.
Makes total sense. All right, man, we're going to talk about one more LPS, and then we're going to talk about oxalic acid. Golden Rainbow Para... How do you pronounce it, dude? I can't even...
Para-ancora.
Para-ancora, okay.
Fimbriphyllia para-ancora. It's another euphyllia. It was reclassified as fimbriphyllia. I don't know, a couple of years ago. But it is a branching hammer coral.
Oh, wow, branching hammer. Look at that thing. Holy smokes.
Yeah, same thing as the Prince of Darkness. It's a branching hammer coral. And it is... I see... I'm fortunate. One of the things that I love about what I do is we import corals, and my addiction gets the best of me. And my suppliers know that I have an addiction for new and unique and beautiful corals. And I got one that I'm going to launch probably in the next 6 months. That's another para-ang coral that will actually probably make everybody's head spin, because I still can't wrap my head around where the colors have come from on this coral. But this one here is another one of those corals that I still can't wrap my head around where all the color came from, because I don't remember it looking like this when we put it on the farm. And I think it was probably about 10 polyps that we put on the farm. And it was just a common gold hammer that came in. And as we kept sitting on it, and it kept growing from that one polyp out into 4, 6, 10, 20 polyps on one fragment, all these colors started coming in that were like the green, the turquoise, the pink, and then the bright gold tips. And then down in the body, it's like almost like a purple or black. And I'm just going, what is this? And this isn't even the best one of them. This is like the second best when it comes to no. This is like the third best of the color morse of branching hammers that we have, and I think it's mind blowing. The one that I really can't wait to launch is the orange rainbow, which I have to call, I don't know what, the holy hell acro or the holy hell,
A holy mackerel.
I mean, ooh, it'll blow people's minds. And then we got the other one that I'm going to launch down the road. There's a lot of really awesome corals coming up down the road, but the golden rainbow is very, very unique. And I actually had a customer send me a text message. He got the coral on Friday of last week, and he's like, he didn't do the ordering, and he goes, we only got. He's like, one of these hammer corals isn't a golden rainbow, and I'm like, well, of course it's not. It's just a common gold orange that we sell that are wild. We chop the polyps off, mount them to a plug, and we sell them for a decent, a fair price. And I said, you ordered 2 of my golden rainbows, and you ordered 2 of the what we call gold orange. I'm like, the 2 gold orange aren't even close to the golden rainbow if you look at them closely. And I said, so that's why you're not getting 4 of them. You only have 2 of them. And he got back to me and he's like, whoa, dude. He's like, I didn't even realize. He's like, they had the white lights on. He's like, I turned off the whites and just had all the blues on. He's like, and those 2 outshine every other euphyllia in the entire aquarium.
Wow.
Other than his favorite one is also the Prince of Darkness. He got that as well. But yeah, it's aquaculture versus wild, major differences on euphyllias. I mean, it's amazing the colors we're pulling out of some of these corals. It just, I'm so fortunate that we have people that care, like I said. And I got Gene from Reef Labs. He is a godsend to me and my chemistry, because without him, who knows what my corals would look like. I mean, I'm sure they would look fine, but dialing everything in from week to week and 2 years of doing it has been a huge learning experience, understanding that people that say minor and trace elements are not necessary for your aquarium, why don't you go back to school and think about what the ocean has in it and why the ocean has it in it and why we don't put that same thing in our aquarium.
Dude, you got me to turn around on that stuff. I never dosed minors and traces, and now I'm doing it, the Captivate stuff, and I'm noticing some big differences for sure.
It's not hard either. I mean, you don't have to dial it in like I do. I'm a geek. I want to. I have the resources to. It's my farm. It's my livelihood. If you're a hobbyist, if you're just putting in minor and trace elements according to what the manufacturer recommends, and you're just doing an ICP test after 10 days, like Chris says to, and then doing another one, what I think he recommends it, 2 weeks after that, and you get it dialed in where you're not elevated in any of your levels, and then you do a test once a month. Think about it this way. If you're putting minor and trace elements in and you get that kind of dialed in, don't ever do another water change. There's no reason to, unless you got an astronomical amount of nutrients in your water and you have to get rid of that. Do the minor and traces. It's pennies a month. A water change is dollars per month, or tens of dollars per month, or hundreds of dollars per month.
Yeah.
Dose minor and traces, and don't ever do another water change. You don't have to. We don't. I haven't done a water change on the 5,000-gallon farm system in 4 months, 5 months.
Really? How's that working out?
Okay, I lie. I can't say I don't do any. I mean, I got one of my employees that is trying to get his tank dialed in, and it's so messed up. He takes 25 gallons of water from that system every week. So, I mean, if you talk about a water change, that's like what, a thousandth of a % water change weekly?
It's like peeing in the ocean.
Exactly. So, major water changes is what my point being is. You don't have to do any major water changes. If you dial in and get your pH stabilized and start dosing a minor and trace supplement that you trust and do a Reef Labs ICP test, in the very beginning, the money you're going to spend is going to come back tenfold, because there's no reason for you to do any of the water changes. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's all there.
All right, dude, we're going to talk about one more coral, and then we're going to get into the OA discussion. Richard is asking me to ask you about the insane Bauer Banky from Nick.
Amanda.
I don't have a video or picture of that.
Maybe Amanda can shoot you one real quick. She's listening to this. I know she's got pictures of that coral. It's one of her favorite corals in the entire farm. It's actually the Bauer Banky that turned me into a Bauer addict. I think we got like 50 different color morphs of Bauer on the farm now, and I think that's going to continue to grow as I keep getting more in. But Richard, thanks for bringing this one up, because this is one of those corals that, you know, it's an addiction again, but it's one of those things that if people would have seen it, what had happened to this colony that we have now, and when we got it as a fragment in 2019, it was actually Magna 2019 is when we got this coral. It was just a 3 polyp fragment of Bauer Banky. We almost lost this coral 3 different times to some sort of a bacterial infection. And
that's a great segue.
It is. It is. And oxalinic comes right into play with this. We also the ChemiClean dipping that we have been doing for 3 or 4 years now. But this Bauer Banky is like a bleeding apple on steroids. I keep using that word, but it literally is purple, black, green, red, yellow, molted throughout the entire colony now, and it's completely encrusted over a 4-inch frag tile, and it had it would probably be a lot bigger than that if it wouldn't have gone through the issues that it had gone through. But it helped me learn so much about corals and what to do to treat corals, because my mission was, because I know Amanda loved that coral, and I knew what Nick from Ultra Corals wanted to sell it to me for, but he ended up just giving it to me and requested photos of it every 6 months so he could see it growing out. It was an expensive piece of coral, let's put it that way. And we grew it out, and we continued to grow it out, but we almost lost it. It got this white banding in it, and it wouldn't, it was just shrinking up and not opening up. And we started doing ChemiClean baths on it for 30 minutes every single day. And we did that for about 3 weeks. And every day of the week, we let it rest all weekend long, and we cured it. It came back and was starting to grow like a weed again. And then for whatever reason, about 6 months later, it happened again to it. And we started doing the exact same thing, and it was working extremely well. And it took a little less time to fix the problem because we caught it sooner and knew what to do. And then this last time, which is about 3 months ago, Andreas came to me. He's like, "Oh, Chris," he's like, "the Bauer Banky's not looking good." He's like, "What do you want me to do?" And I'm like, "I want you to ChemiClean it." And I said, "And then I want you to let it rest for a day. And then I want you to put it in oxalinic acid for 24 hours. I said, "And then just put it back in the system and let's let it sit for a week and see what happens." That's actually the only thing we did to it, was we put it in ChemiClean once. The next day we put it in oxalinic acid for 24 hours and put it back in the system, and we watched all the color come back into it. We watched it blow up like a balloon all over again. I hope Amanda can send you a photo of it quick. I don't know if you'll be able to process it and get it up there on the screen, but spectacular. It's like the, I hate saying holy grail, but it's like the holy grail of Bauer Bankies to anybody. Actually, I think the other one that I have that's yellow and blue and orange probably makes that one look like I don't know. I guess the eye of the beholder. Beautiful coral.
Yeah, if Amanda can text it to me, then maybe I could just hold up my phone to the that I can't.
I know what she's doing right now. She's looking hard for it.
Can we keep going, man, and talk about oxalinic acid, or what, do we save that for another show? I guess we should. We've been teasing it. We got to talk about it, right?
Yeah, it's only 9 o'clock. Let's go.
10 to 9.
10 to 9. I got time. I'm ready to go. If you're Keith, it's your show, buddy. Whenever you're ready to go, you just let me know. I can talk for hours and hours and hours. You know that.
I do know that.
So does everybody here.
All right. So so I had both Sanjay on and Mike Paletta on a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago. All right, and we talked about how they had some Rtn and Stn episodes, and Mike solved his problem by using Cipro, and I think. You cringed, and
scary stuff.
And Sanjay, I think basically was he did some like large water changes. He tried the oxalinic acid treatment; it didn't work for him. So I had a situation, right? Well, let's back up here. You're the one that first started using the oxalinic acid. What is oxalinic acid, and how did you first discover it, and what is it?
Okay, this is going to go back to the originator of the method of using oxalic acid. This all was devised because of elegance corals. Okay, I know a lot of people in this hobby industry, especially people that import corals. Getting elegance corals from Indonesia is it's a crapshoot, and because for whatever reason there's an issue or bacterial infection that they get, and nobody's been able to figure out how to fix that problem. And Julian Sprung, the amazing man that he is, and all the things that he has done for this industry, he's been just pulling his hair out trying to figure out why elegance corals are such a problem when he remembers, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, even longer than that, that elegance corals used to be considered a beginner coral. They were easy to take care of. We never had any problems with them. And Julian had some beautiful elegance corals and had gotten some, donated to him that were unique. And all of a sudden they were getting this, what he coined, or somebody coined, the elegance coral syndrome. And it's a bacterial infection that affects elegance corals to the point of they blow up like a balloon, but their tentacles shrink. And I always call it the fat tentacle disease, where they didn't get long and flowy, they were short and stubby. And the coral basically looked like a blob with stubby little tentacles on it. And once they got that, we knew that they were doomed. They were done. There's nothing to fix it. I tried everything I could possibly think of. I tried oxalic acid. I tried nitrofurazone. I tried a bunch of different things. I didn't try oxalic acid. I'm sorry. I tried ChemiClean and I tried nitrofurazone, but never knew anything about oxalic acid. And Julian sent to the Frost Science Museum to Zach Ransom, who is was one of the head curator. I don't know if he's the curator, but he's one of the head aquarists there, maintaining and taking care of the reef exhibits. And they had QT systems, and they were working with all of these really, really hardcore antibiotics on Caribbean reef corals that they had gone through all the leaps and bounds to get permits to collect, to bring back to the Frost Science Museum to hold, like Dendrogyra pillar coral. They collected the last of the known colonies on the reefs to keep them so they could learn to spawn them and then reintroduce them down the road so that the species didn't become extinct in the Florida Keys. And they used some nasty antibiotics like Cipro and I can't think of the name of the one, but they had to use hazmat suits and actually have a permit to even acquire it. And he tried that on elegance corals and it didn't work. And he's just like, I don't know what to do. So the veterinarian then was trying to isolate different strains of bacteria found on them. And for whatever reason, I don't know the exact reason why they decided, Zach and the veterinarian decided to use oxalic acid, and they devised a dosage for a 1 hour bath.
And oxalic acid is a common treatment to treat fish disease in koi, right?
It is super common. Like most places, pond supply stores that would sell koi would probably stock oxalic acid at their place for people to put into their koi ponds if there was a bacterial outbreak, because it's very, very commonly used there. And this was just an experimental thing for Zach and the veterinarian. So the great thing about this is Zach's a marine biologist. I think he's also a marine scientist. And then his veterinarian they're the ones that came up with this plan. They wrote a little journal about it. They sent it to me, and Julian told me about it. And then I couldn't do the 1 hour bath time frame wise. It was a little bit more difficult for me. So I tweaked the method a little bit with the math that I know how to do. And it actually worked extremely well. And I was extremely grateful for their initial results and their studies. And then I took it a step further for like a 24-hour type bath versus a 1 hour bath. And I got the exact same results in a shorter period of time than what Zach and the veterinarian at Frost Science had gotten. And I was curing elegance corals left and right. So that blew my mind. And when I started seeing other issues on other corals, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, nitrofurazone didn't work, but nitrofurazone didn't work on elegance corals. So let's try it on Euphyllias. So when we got Euphyllias that came in rough shape, we put them in the oxalic acid bath, and wow, blew my mind. But I never would put it in as a full treatment for a system. And Jake begged me to teach him how to use it, and I told him I promised, I swore to secrecy with Julian Sprung, and I'm a man of my word. I'm not going to go against what Julian wants. I said, let me talk to Julian first. So I called Julian and we talked about it, and he said, give it to Jake and let's see what Jake does with it. Jake's like me. He wants to know more. Jake was exactly like me. That's why we clicked so well. That's why we got along so well. And we talked all the time. We bounced ideas off each other's heads. And when I gave him the treatment, he tweaked it a little bit farther than what I did for the bath. And then everything was going great. And his euphyllias in his one tank, he dipped them. They'd look amazing. And then he'd dip them again. A month and a half later, they'd go south again. And he's like, I'm going to do it in the whole system. What do you got to lose? If I don't do something, I'm going to lose them anyhow.
How big of a system?
It was 50 some gallons. 50,
so not a big, it was not a big system.
I think it was like a 50 cube. And I'm like, I need to do it on my farm because I know I see the same things that are on the imported corals on some of my farmed corals that were problematic for me when that farm got set up. And I had moved them from the meadow halides and T5s to the LEDs. And those corals started to die with this bacterial infection. And of course, the meadow halides cured the problem for the most part, but it didn't fix it completely. And I said, I'm going to treat my whole system. And Jake's like, don't do it. Just do, you got 5,000 gallons, bro. He's like, let me do my 50 some odd gallon system. So I didn't even treat my system. I think it was like 4 more months after he did his first initial treatment because we didn't know what was going to happen long term. And we still don't know what's going to happen long term. And I want everybody to understand that. So this was experimental. We have no ill effects
It's still
whatsoever.
experimental.
It is. But it's been experimental in a very good way because I've gotten in only one person that tried it did not get crazy positive outcome from it. And I think I've told 5 or 6 people how to do it. But Jake did his tank and it's looking freaking awesome. And 3 weeks later, polyp started retracting again. He's like, "What, dude?" He's like, "It's not going away." So I said, "Okay." I always known treatments to go in, threes, do 3 treatments.
Right.
And he's like, "All right." He's like, "So what should we do?" And I'm like, "I think you should do the same exact dosage since you saw good results." I said, "But I think you should do it one day, rest a day, do it again on the 3rd day, rest a day, and then do it again." And I said, then run carbon and your protein skimmers in between treatments, and let's see what happens. And I think I gave him 3 months, and he's like, everything's looking phenomenal. And here I am still pulling my hair out, losing torches and going, I need to fix my problem. That's all I want to do. I don't want to kill any more of my corals. And I was just like, I'm doing it. I don't care. I didn't tell anybody in the whole entire facility because I knew I was going to get all kinds of questions and I didn't want to answer any questions. I just wanted to do it because I know what Jake gave me solid, honest information. And I didn't want to have to go through that and I know Amanda, and God, I love her to death for this, but she'd have been like asking question after question after question after question. And I'd have been going, I'm done. I'm doing it. I don't care what you say. So I did it. And wow, blew my mind. I mean, all my torch issues disappeared except for the damn parasites that are just a nightmare to get rid of on torch corals nowadays. You think you got rid of the torch eating flatworms? You thought wrong. They live inside the coral, I think, because I don't know how else to say it. There's no other way to pinpoint why a coral does great for 4 months and not a single coral in the entire facility has the flatworm on it, and then all of a sudden it pops up again when there's no new torches or any euphyllias introduced. But we didn't have any problems with this bacterial infection since then as well, and I was so frustrated with Euphyllia glabrescens losing polyp after they would grow out from a single polyp into 5 or 6 polyps. Everybody says heads. Note to everybody, they are not heads. They are coral polyps. Polyps, not heads.
They're mouths too, right? I mean, you're talking about mouths.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the thing. A head, according to people, is a polyp, is an individual animal. So when you have a colony of torch coral and there's 7 polyps on it, you have 7 clones of the original animal. And you have 7 individual animals, basically, in a colony form. Jake would love me for saying that anyway. we used to do it all the time, and he used to say to me, like, dude, you just said heads, and I'm like, dude, I talk to people, I talk to my customers all day, every day, and if I say polyp with euphilia, I get pauses from people. They don't have any clue what I'm talking about, and I'm going, I mean head. It's actually a polyp. Did you know that? It's not a head, it's a polyp.
It's like the lingo, you know. You got to like just go with the lingo, but.
I respect what Jake said. I want people to understand what they have in their possession too. That's why I can't stand Looney Tune names. You know, if you put a name on it, put the species with it. Because if people don't know what they actually have, the hobby's dead in the long run. I mean, because if you don't know what coral species you're keeping and you only know it by some Looney Tune name that was for marketing purposes only 98% of the time, the industry's hurting really badly because you're not educating yourself on what you actually physically have that lives in the ocean that everybody's worried about. Learn your Latin names. I mean, I don't care if you learn the species name, learn the Latin name. If it's a euphilia, it's a euphilia. If it's a polyp, it's a polyp, not a head.
Yeah, yeah. So, about 2 months ago, I reached out to you and I was like, dude, I've been losing, like, I've had some Rtn, Stn issues in my Peninsula tank. The tank had been thriving, and maybe since the start of the summer, like randomly, I would have one SPS colony that was just kind of like completely, Rtn overnight. Then there would be like some Stn. It kind of like got a little bit worse, like in September. I had a nice big home wrecker colony, and I started seeing like some, all of a sudden it started to STN. I was like, holy crap, what's going on there? Walt Disney, same thing. The ACI pink spathulata was not looking happy. The ACI cherry pie millie was not looking happy. The ACI yellow tip I got from you, beautiful colony, just thriving, overnight, gone. It's like, okay, what is going on here? And so I know Paletta had done the Cipro, and I was like, all right, Chris, I need your input on this thing. What do you think? And Mike is telling me I should do Cipro, and you said no, oxalic acid.
Yes, it's mild antibiotic that kills gram-negative bacteria.
Did I say gram-positive when I had those guys on?
You did.
All right,
it's okay.
I stand corrected.
I mean, it's very it's a lot of information to process and remember. I mean, I've always been all about understanding the gram-negative, gram-positive bacteria because of the gram-negatives can be extremely bad. There's a lot of vibrios and a lot of other species of bacteria that can be in that are gram-negative that can really be detrimental to your little ecosystem you have growing. So why and Mike, I'm happy that it worked for you, buddy. But I'll tell you what, after my experience with Cipro has never been with Cipro in an aquarium. It was with my amazing daughter at 1.5 years old with a MRSA infection. It was the last straw for the doctors to get this MRSA infection under control was to give her an IV drip of Cipro. I had to sign a paper for them to give my daughter at 1.5 years this nasty, nasty antibiotic. And when I heard people were using it in their aquariums, my head was about to explode, because what is it going to do to your aquarium's biological system? What are the long-term effects that it's going to do for your system? Because it is such a broad spectrum antibiotic that is really, really, really bad. I mean, it kills almost everything. There's worse ones out there, but when it comes down to Cipro, for the doctors to say to me it was the last straw for your daughter's MRSA infection, I'm going, I don't want this in her body.
Yeah.
And actually, that actually was a good thing, because I signed the paper and a half an hour later, I took matters into my own hands and everything was good to go. And she didn't get very much Cipro, let's put it that way. So I didn't want to go the Cipro route. Especially as a full tank treatment. Now, I can't say anything negative to anybody wanting to use Cipro as a bath.
Yep, yeah.
As a dip, because antibiotics are very new to us in the reefing industry. We don't use antibiotics. Nobody ever used antibiotics, years ago in their full system treatments. And I didn't use antibiotics in a full system treatment until I used oxalic acid. I mean, I've used nitrofurazone for half a decade now. treating stressed corals coming in and just having a 150-gallon, trough set up to put the corals in with nitrofurazone was a very beneficial learning experience for ACI and for us and the longevity and the health of these animals. And again, it goes back to the fact that I couldn't stand seeing, Plerogyra, bubble corals, or stressed out blastomuses, or stressed out, euphyllias, or stressed out, acan or microlords when we had the brown jelly issues with microlords. That was the whole reason why we started doing the nitrofurazone or antibiotic dips, was because of the brown jelly that was coming from the Great Barrier Reef on microlords. So using it in a system for people to throw Cipro in there, it's like, oh my gosh, what's it going to do? I mean, great thing is that corals can cycle an aquarium for you. So people might not have even noticed the fact that it wiped out their entire biological bed, because corals are very resilient and they can go through that cycle again, or it wiped out the majority of it, but because it was not in the system long enough to get through all the pores and crevices, maybe there was enough bacteria left there to continue the cycle and life of the aquarium without going through a full-blown cycle again. But oxalic acid, you won't go through a cycle. And that's why I was like, and Jake was saying the same thing to me. He's like, dude, why are people using Cipro in their aquariums? Why are people telling people to use Cipro in their aquariums? There's no studies done on this. What's it going to do? And he's like, I'm doing the ox, and let's go from there. And we were both so ecstatic about it. We were getting ready to write a whole entire article on it. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to say it, but I mean, it was supposed to come out the first week he was in Bali. And I was supposed to send him my information on the Friday, the day he passed. And that's where I get really hard with that oxalic acid thing, because, it was a thing him and I were working on for so long, and we were going to tell the world about it. And actually, everybody can hear about it today, right here, right now.
Yeah.
First time I've talked about it in any details whatsoever. And Amanda's actually doing another article. I think so. She's supposed to be doing another article, if it gets approved, on oxalic acid in the Coral magazine.
Yeah.
So it's been a life changer for me and a life changer for my Euphyllia glabrescens and a bunch of other corals. Acropores, especially in my wild coral system. I'm not going to go on much more on this because I know you got a really cool story to tell about it. But we had been treating all of our elegans corals upon arrival, right from the bags they were packed in to oxalic acid bath for 24 hours, then to our wild coral systems. We found that was probably a really smart thing to do. But if it was already present in the wild coral system, it didn't do any good.
Yeah.
Because in a couple of weeks, it started to happen again. So that's when, after the amazing results we got on our farm system, and we haven't done it again to that farm system, and that's been over 6 months. And we've only done it, the treatment, at three consecutive treatments, once in our wild coral systems. But because we did that, when we take our wild corals, our elegans corals, into the oxalic acid, unfortunately, all the other corals should probably go through it too, because they're coming from the same system that the Dagon elegans corals are, and maybe the elegans corals have it present in their body, and we're fixing them. But as soon as we put all the other corals in, if that same strain of bacteria is on any other coral that we put into that system, it'll eventually make its way to the elegans.
Kind of blows your mind, right?
Yeah, it's life.
Yeah.
It's an ecosystem. It's the circle of life.
It finds a way. Life finds a way.
Amazing.
Rob Upstate New York and Corey Page, thank you guys so much for the super chats. The comments are, here's to a 3-hour ReefBum episode. Laugh out loud. Great job, Keith and Chris. I got to pee, so, it ain't going to happen. But Corey Page, thank you. From the Boston Reefers gang, great live stream. Thanks, folks. So, yeah, my experience with the oxalic acid. So, I described the situation, what was going on in my tank. So about 5 weeks ago, I finished up my third oxalic acid treatment of my Peninsula tank, right? And I talked about the Rtn and Stn events and some corals that were definitely looking like they were next up in terms of kind of like shit in the bed. But knock on wood, 5 weeks since that last treatment, I have not had any Rtn Stn events. I've had corals, the spath, ulata, the cherry pie millie. They have turned around some sick polyp extension on the pink spathulata. So yeah, again, this is experimental, right? This is something that and so hopefully we're gonna get some data on this, because I did a pre and a post aquabiomics test on it. I have not gotten the results back on that. I know somebody else, Andy from Oregon, reached out to me, and he wanted to know what the treatment was, so I passed that along, and he's going to do a pre-post as well on the aquabiomics, because he was having some issues with Rtn and Stn. So I think it's it is very experimental. It's anecdotal at this point in time, but it'd be nice to have some data behind it.
I mean, when it comes down to elegance corals and bathing them in this oxalic acid, the proof is right there. There's nothing anecdotal about that, because that elegance coral was going to die. And Julian said it. It is doomed. It's dead. Zach, fix it. Zach fixed it. When Julian, he called Julian and said, hey, your elegance has been looking great now for over a month since we've done the treatments on it. Do you want to come get it? And he's like, no, put it in your display tank at Frost Science Museum and let it live its life out there. You did that. Now I know what needs to be done for every elegance coral that I get. And now that he knows that the whole system can be treated, I'm sure that the tanks that had elegance corals in the past that died, he's thinking logically about this, saying that bacteria still might be present in there. Maybe I should treat the entire system instead of just the coral. And I think that's the key. If you haven't had an elegance coral in any of your reef systems and you want an elegance coral, happy to have you go through the process and help you out with the process. It's a 0.5 gram per 10 gallons of water, and it's 24 hours. In that, make sure that the aquarium has very similar conditions to a normal reef aquarium, where you have a light cycle and you have water flow and the temperature's being maintained for 24 hours. And as a matter of fact, Keith, I'm glad we're talking here, because I had the weekend before the sale, Andreas told me on Friday, because I normally go in on Saturdays to finish up my photos, taking photos for the next week's What You See Is What You Get. He's like, you're coming in on Saturday? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm putting in the elegance corals that are in Coral 1. They're going in the oxalic acid. He's like, make sure you take them out. Well, I don't know what happened, but I was like totally brain dead that Saturday, I guess. And I didn't even go in and look at them. They were still in the oxalic acid all the way till Monday morning. Ooh. And I got in Monday morning and I looked and I'm like, oh my God, you dummy. I went over, grabbed the corals, I put them into the system. And believe it or not, like they were looking rough on Friday. They were so wide open. I'm like, well, maybe 2 days isn't a bad thing, because they looked absolutely phenomenal. And actually, we sold every one of them but 2 on the What You See Is What You Get. That's how amazing they looked. And wow. Every customer that got them said they looked phenomenal and were opened up great. So that was just a stumbled across blunder by me. 2 days is not a bad thing. It's not going to hurt them. Actually, I think it might be a better thing doing 2 days, but I've only got one time doing it with the results that we got off of it. It's only one time. So I can't really say that that's better. But it seems like it is from what I'm seeing right now. That maybe 2-day bath is even better than just that 1 day, multiple times.
Right, and we should point out that you're talking about baths for individual like LPS corals, and there's Correct. Also a in-tank treatment type of.
I'm not going to put that out there to just anybody. I don't want the world to know about that. I don't want people just throwing oxalic acid in their tanks for no reason, like people are throwing Cipro in their tank for no particular reason. I mean, I need to know more before I have people doing this. And you. I don't. If I don't know the person, they're not going to find out.
Right.
Let's put it that way. You want the bath? I just told you what the bath is. You want the full system treatment? when I'm more comfortable giving that information out, that's when I'll give that out.
And
it's experimental.
And it's experimental, and people should be, I think the first thing you got to do if you're in terms of acros, let's talk about acros, Rtn, Stn, get an ICP test. Just
exactly.
Do an ICP test and see if there's anything like red flagged in the ICP test, and go down the traditional path there before you do something that's still kind of being understood.
And there's only one ICP test we recommend, right? Right? Reef Labs. That's the only one that I will use.
Well, dude, I had Claude on from Fauna Marine there, last week. But
man.
What's that?
I missed it. I missed all but the last 20 minutes. I wanted to hear Claude. He's so knowledgeable. He's got so much up there. I think, I've forgotten a lot of things, but he's definitely forgotten more than what I've forgotten in all the years he's been reefing. He's a very knowledgeable and wealth of information, and I was really upset that I missed it. And I tried to get back and listen to it, but every time I went to it, I was trying to listen to it with my earbuds at work. I get interrupted too much. I'm like, ah! So maybe over break, just sitting down chilling, I'll get to listen to the rest of the live stream that you had with Claude. Good guy, very good guy.
He had some interesting theories and ideas for sure. All right, dude. Maybe we should wrap it up because I know I got to probably take a pee.
Hey,
and
whenever you're ready, buddy, I'm ready too. We can do this another time, and I had fun.
Always have a lot of fun with you, buddy. On so I'm sure we'll have you back on real soon to chat again.
Sounds
but
good.
yeah, folks, I appreciate everybody. We got up to 100 likes. Beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you, everybody.
Folks. All right, man. Well, listen, we talked about this before, but how do they get a hold of your stuff?
To get a hold of ACI's corals, you need to have a local fish store that is doing business with us. If they are not, I've had some people be very persistent and push, and they get the customer, the store to set up an account, and they're very happy when they do set up an account. So you have to be a local fish store or an accredited online seller that has an active website that is their sole source of income. And there is online websites that can purchase from us that you can purchase our corals from. And if they don't have the coral you're looking for, just request, say, hey, I need the ACI Prince of Darkness, and just have them order some up for you. Stores, and there's not very many online only retail outlets that we sell to, but the ones that are definitely credible in our opinion. So far, that's the only way at this point in time. And I've got some tricks up my sleeve for our new website when that gets put together. And I've been talking about it for like 3 months, but when it gets all said and done, it's going to be a very easy outlet for anybody that is the end buyer for retail stores to be able to purchase, because it's a simple link that the customer needs to post up that you can buy what you see is what you get, corals or whatever. Makes it nice and easy, but that's coming down the road. When it's going to happen, I can't tell you. There's so much going on, and it's a long process putting together the proper website.
You guys are busy.
Yes, too damn busy. I'm not busy right now, so.
Well, dude, listen, happy holidays to you and Amanda and the rest of the family, and to all you folks out there, happy holidays. And I appreciate you, Chris. It's always a real fun chat when we got you on there. So thank you again, man, for taking the time to be with us tonight.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys very much for listening, and thank you, Keith. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays.
Yeah. All right, folks. So that's going to do it for this episode. I also want to thank both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine for being the sponsors of this live stream. And I appreciate all you folks tuning in and participating in the chat and the contributing with the super chat. Thank you very much. Also, a big thank you to Paul, the moderator, who is also the president of the Boston Reefers Society. Please join and support your local reefing clubs. They are so important to this hobby. I also want to let you know that all episodes of Rappin With ReefBum are available as podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Amazon. I'm going to be off next week for the holidays, but my next Rappin With ReefBum live stream will be on Thursday, January 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Aaron from Aquaforest. So that should be another great show. You want to check out the full upcoming schedule of guests on Rappin with ReefBum, visit reefbum.com under the YouTube section. Until then, be safe and be well, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Keith.